And we are recording.
And we are recording. I'm in my onesie again. I love
I
it.
like it. I feel like
It's
it's a
cold in
good
my
outfit.
apartment. I got little horns or antlers.
You're horny.
Always.
I like it when you're horny. Get out of here, Michael. God.
You know what? Do you know what floaters are?
Like the poops?
No. Like in your eyes.
I had a few floaters in my day.
No.
No, I've never. What, in your eye? What?
They're like spots in your vision.
Oh yeah.
Because as we get older, we get little strands of
it's like light,
your vitreous or whatever in your eye, and it casts shadows on your retina, so it kind of looks like little spots or specks, or in my case it's like little cobwebs. But I can look at like a white wall and see spots sometimes. It's so tiny and stupid, but I've convinced myself that I'm surrounded by bugs. Every time I see like a little spot or something, I'm instantly like, is that a bug? And so I could be washing dishes and think, oh my God, is there a speck on this glass that I'm not cleaning? No. It's just floaters. I'm like so paranoid about it. Isn't that weird? I wish I had the other kind of floaters.
I wish I had a joke about that, but that just sounds scary. You might want to talk to someone about that.
No, my doctor was like, it's normal. That's okay.
No.
Really?
No. That's definitely not. That doesn't sound normal to me. I'm just saying. And then again, when your doctor is also the guy you buy deli meats from, you might want to go somewhere else. Anyways, we're gonna do this in 3, 2, 1.
What are you doing?
Testes in my mouth.
Get on the ground, you fucking pledge!
Ew.
Welcome to the greatest podcast experience of your life. This is the Fratchat Podcast.
All young men like 3 things: food, booze, pussy.
Featuring Carlos Garcia and Chris Moore.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the greatest podcast in the history of podcasting time. It's the Fratchat Podcast. I'm Carlos Garcia with Chris Moore. How's it going?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just sore from the gym. You can relate, right?
I hear that, brother.
My muscles are sore. I hate getting older.
It's the best feeling. Because I have a hefty amount of weightlifting stuff here, but I don't have a bench press, so I was able to get it. I was going to Planet Fitness here with Julie for a while, but then they closed down over the summer to, get rebuilds, and it was taking forever. So she got us a holiday package membership for Crunch Fitness, and I got to say, man, it makes a huge difference when you upgrade to these nicer gyms. It's got a sauna, a steam room. They have like little towels again for when you wipe yourself, but also if you want to go to the steam room, they have bigger towels and shit. And it's like actually clean. Tub? I did not look to see if they have a hot tub, but honestly, I would not get into a gym hot tub if they paid me.
Oh, I would. I would spend all day in there.
All those sweaty dudes getting in there. You know how much chlorine you have to put in that hot tub. It's like ugh. But the steam room is beautiful. The equipment is awesome, and they have enough of it where, like, if it was busy, I can imagine, like, it was a good amount of people when I was there, and I didn't have to wait. So if it was busy, I can imagine not being awful. And no offense, as I get older, and this is to the kids fucking annoy me. And Planet Fitness over the summer, which is, again, I got to give it to them. It's a nice thing that they do, and I would have taken advantage of it if I was a kid. But they give high schoolers free gym memberships for the summer months. So, which is
Really?
good, keeps them off the streets for at least a while. You do whatever, you're off in the gym doing something good.
Maybe it prepares them for the streets. They get big and strong so they can steal
And they're
your
jacked.
purse.
But it's fucking annoying because kids obviously go to the gym during the off times. So now the off times became just as busy as the busy times. So during
Yeah.
the summertime, whenever I would try to go to the gym, it was always fucking packed. And kids don't know what the hell they're doing. So like it's like 6 of them to a machine. And they're all like taking forever. And during like, it's like they don't know what the fuck they're doing with the machine. So they're like looking around and fucking like smacking it. It's like, none of this problem is non-existent at Crunch now. So I feel I'm not gonna lie, like I'm like a high-end gym goer again.
Good.
Get out of my way, Planet Fitness peasants.
No, speaking of chlorine, I have a friend, I'll tell you who it is off air, but you know this person. And at my mom's house, I was like, jump in the pool, and he was like, I'm allergic to chlorine. And I was like, what?
Huh?
And my mom said, well, you shouldn't drink the water, baby, like
Yeah.
anywhere because there's chlorine in water.
There's-
And I Googled it, and no one's allergic to chlorine. I think maybe he just didn't want to get in the pool. Maybe some people are just, maybe they didn't bring their swim trunks, or they just are self-conscious or whatever. But whenever I hear the word chlorine, I always giggle about my friend who was like, I'm allergic. No, you're not.
What?
Just say you don't want to get in the pool.
Oof, what a loser.
Womp, womp, womp. Well, I'm glad you have your new gym. My gym has a hot tub, but it's been out of commission, and they're like, we're not going to repair it. I'm like, well, then you shouldn't
What?
promote it.
Yeah, we have a hot tub. Doesn't work, but we have it. Just saying, it's there. You can't use it, but it's there.
At my gym, one of my favorite machines. It's like it's equivalent to a bench press, but it has like cables.
Okay.
And so you sit upright and you grab each cable or each handle, and you go to town. But the weights that are stacked up, some of them are sticky, and so even though I so even though I might select, let's say, 80 pounds, the a couple more of the 10-pound weights might be stuck to the 80-pound weight. So I'm actually lifting 100 pounds because I can't release the ones that are stuck. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah,
So I was
totally.
trying to explain this to the front desk. I don't know how to explain it. And I was like, the weights are sticky. She's like, okay, we'll clean them. I was like, no, but like it's like I I'm lifting more than I want to. And she's like, that's great. No, no, it's not great. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate it. And
Just
I
fucking say
wanted to be like,
the
follow
weights,
me.
the plates are stuck to each other, and so you're lifting more than you need. Leave it at that. Like, why are you talking
So
like a goddamn
she was
3-year-old?
like,
The
what's
weights
the
are
problem?
sticky. I'd be like, okay. Like, wipe it
I
down.
kept telling her I'm lifting more, and she's like, that's great. What's the problem? I'm like,
Yeah, like
I
that's
don't
what
know
you're
what to
here for.
say. Womp,
Oh
womp,
my
womp.
god. It's lifting 20 pounds instead of 10 pounds. I'm fucking gonna have an aneurysm here.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy. Yeah, at least you got a pat in the back. That's nice. No, but yeah, this is a good time of year to join a gym, I think, because the holidays and shit. So if you're thinking about it, also note the January 1st deals are also coming. So you can also, if there's nothing going on for the holidays, there's always a New Year's gym special. So if you want to lock a cheaper rate at a good gym, this is the time to start looking.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
you have to get at least gets you the time to get used to it before the New Year's resolutioners come in, which we've already spoken. I think we had a whole episode about how much we hate them
Oh,
on this
yeah.
very show. So that'll be when I, go back to my home equipment. But I did get a nice curling bar over break, so now I have more of an arsenal here in my apartment for when the resolutioners come, which is nice. Which is nice. Anyways, Mr. Mo, you've heard of the HAWK TUAH girl, right?
HAWK TUAH, like when you're sucking a big ass dick.
Yeah, that's right. The girl that went famous for telling the world how she gives head uh, is now, she has a huge podcast too. But now, of course, the faster they come, the faster they go down, just like our penises.
No, it's the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Stop talking about my grandma, dude. I told you that's not nice.
Sorry,
You mean
Granny.
yes? No, you're right. Totally. But of course, she is now involved in a crypto scheme because that's
Uh-oh.
totally what a girl that the bros made famous is gonna do next. And she's being accused of stealing $50 million, folks. And there's a whole thread about this on Twitter. Actually, it explains the situation pretty well by at Shuriken Trade. Again, that's Shuriken Trade, SHURIKEN Trade, spell trade. And they explain the whole thing better, hopefully better than I will. But I will attempt to do this. Note, I'm not a crypto bro. I've only jokingly bought Doge once. And I'm not gonna lie, it worked out great because at the time it skyrocketed. So, you know, other than that, don't know shit about crypto. I know it's all bullshit.
I don't either.
It's a bubble. It's eventually going to burst, but it is making a ton of people a ton of money. So power to you. I'm more of a old classic stock market trading kind of guy. But anyways, as we know, she has a babe too. So naturally, a babe talking about giving head is going to get attention. It's like, who doesn't enjoy hearing that? Except Seema over here, but that's a little different. But she was getting so popular. She got a Sirius XM show. She was fucking killing it, and then she decided to launch her own coin called
Hawk?
money sign Hawk.
Yeah.
And now her coin, it quickly hit a market cap of $500 million, which is insane. And then immediately upon hitting that, it came crashing down to 25 million. So it lost 475 million in value, aka 95% of your money gone in just a few minutes if you invested in this. And now, just a few minutes after the coin started dipping, she posted to this group Tokenomics saying that the team didn't sell a single token, and basically explaining how she has nothing to do with any of this happening, and it looks like it's bullshit. Now, apparently, this is where it starts getting complicated. This group, Bubble Maps, investigated the case and revealed that 96% of the coin supply was in one cluster. And then 285 investors joined the coin's pre-sale. And apparently, after that, 89 wallets sold 100% immediately. That would be the team. The team then tried to say that they had not sold anything. However, it's crypto, so there's a fucking digital trail which was found showing her team selling the coin, like fucking unloading it faster than I've ever seen anything. And there is also a couple of minute conversation here where her team tried to make a Twitter space about the situation to alleviate investors' concerns, and because people are pissed. And this crypto investigator called Coffee Break underscore YT. Oh, it says YT, which I'm guessing is white. Chimed in, and they go on a back and forth. He's pretty much questioning them about where the money comes from. And no, this thing is like 6 minutes. I'll try to play some relevant parts, but I might fast forward through some of this shit. But if it's good, I'll play the whole thing. We got time. But I've heard some of this stuff. He comes at him pretty hard. But let me Let me play what they try to say.
This is one of the most miserable, horrible launches I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, then why the fuck are you on?
I've been tracing it on chain for a while. You guys generated over $1 million in fees while y'all's fans got rug pulled. There was snipers, but there was also insider trading directly linked to y'all's creator account. What are you guys doing?
No. That's not true.
That is true. That's a fact.
No, it's not.
Well, it's a fact, and you can see it on chain. So.
It is a fact. I've seen.
We know.
We have the picture.
Trust me. We were there. We could answer that.
You know about the insider trading?
No, there's no insider trading. That's why we can answer it.
Okay, so there's tokens going directly from the main account.
CoffeeZilla, just chill for a second.
And then it's getting sold for $50K. Who is that?
Definitely not us. You think we're doing this for $50K? Yeah, fucking right. Talking to the wrong guy. You're used to these bullshit scammers out here. Not us. Now,
That's what everyone says, by the way.
Listen, doesn't matter. No, I'm not everyone. There was a strategic allocation, right, through a foundation. Every single one of those was signed through a SAFT. The deployer wallet, you've heard of a strategic allocation or a private
How much
sale.
did y'all get doing a pre-sale? How much did y'all make?
It's not that
selling
we
out
made.
your fans. So
Over here, can you give
exact?
Hold on, CoffeeZilla, take a chill pill, brother.
So y'all just rug pulled a bunch of people.
No, there's no rug. We're here every single day. There's no rug pulled, and it's not done by us. Yes, snipers sniped it up to an insane market.
No, it's not just snipers.
That was not us.
That was listen. You know that.
Listen, no. I'm telling you the truth.
And y'all made millions on fees from this little scheme.
There's not a.
I'm sure that's not you getting those fees, right? Who's making the money on the fees? Who's making millions of dollars on fees from this rug pull?
That's not a scheme. That's the project. So we can keep this thing going for years. Okay. That's how do you think? There's so many expenses.
Who makes the money on the fees? Someone just made over $1 million on fees. Who made it?
First of all, the fees were there with Meteora pools, and that goes to the creator, right?
Which is who? Who does that who does that belong to?
That belongs to the project, right?
Who's the project? Who is the project?
Well, the project is over here, Haley Welch, right? And
how much does Haley Welch own?
This is Haley Welch's project.
So she owns all of it.
CoffeeZilla.
Did she just make $1 million on fees on a rug?
Do you know how much it costs for lawyer fees to create a foundation in the Cayman Islands, to hire directors? You think this stuff pays for itself, right?
So y'all wanted to make the money on day one? I don't understand. I'm just asking.
We're here every single day.
Millions of dollars in fees from the rug.
Day 2, day 3. This is how you run a project forever. Is you have to fund that. First of all, over here can speak to the extensive amount of work and time and people that are on this project. Over here has around 18 people working on this right now as we speak. This is not a small time type of nothing. We're really trying to do something here and not just do it for one day and do it for 2 days like you're used to.
So who made the money? You haven't answered the question. Who made the money? How much did Haley Welch make of that 1.8 million?
It's a foundation that is running this project.
How much does she own of it?
It's a foundation. She owns zero of the foundation.
So y'all made the money?
No, I don't own the foundation either. A foundation in the Cayman Islands.
Who profited? Over $1 million was just made.
I'm telling you, a foundation that pays people out. And by the way,
all right, so we can cross there, and eventually they go like back and forth. This guy keeps being sketchy, and eventually the HAWK TUAH girl decides to end the live space because she was quote unquote tired. She apparently,
I'll be honest, I don't understand all this stuff, but to me, in layman's terms, it seems like there is some scheme in which someone somewhere probably made a lot of money on the backs of other people.
Exactly. They basically went ahead and had this coin valued at a really high value. So people thought it was going to be worth a lot, and then they immediately dumped the stock, so it makes it worthless. If everybody dumps at the same time, they all make money on it, but then the stock becomes nothing. Ideally, or in this case, the coin. Stocks and coins, they go up as people buy it. You know what I mean? The more that people won't buy it, the more that it goes up. So if there's a massive uh, pump and dump, then the stock is or coin is going to become worthless, which is what happened here. So all these people in the team had this coin that was valued at 500 million, and then they immediately sold their shares and took it at the highest value. So then for the rest of the people who were outside of the team, the coin became worth 25 million, which is, I mean, a huge 96% reduction in value. So if you invested $100, you're left with $4 or $5. And crypto bros usually put a couple $1,000s into it.
And part of me
So,
is kind of like, shame on you all for investing in stupid cryptocurrency.
and
Get a real job.
it's a fair point you say that, because a lot of people on the webs, on the interwebs, are also saying, like, who would be dumb enough to invest in the HAWK TUAH coin?
Exactly.
Like, the girl got famous for talking about how she gives head. Why are you gonna fucking buy cryptocurrency off her? Like, you can simp out for her, and if she does an OnlyFans, join it. That totally is very on brand for why she's very famous right now. But crypto, I mean, it goes to show, man. Only in America. It's
Crazy.
crazy. You can fucking become the world's most rich and famous head giver. Move over, Monica Lewinsky. You've been tapped.
I wonder if
That's
she's
just
gonna make
crazy.
a statement about this, Monica
Well,
Lewinsky.
yeah, right. It's
She
like, I was
should.
better at it.
Like, can I chime in here, guys?
I like to. I also play with the balls. Now
I
here's
put a
the
little
thing,
pinky in
and
the
the
poop
black.
hole.
That's why Bill always calls me back. Now here's the thing. This is basically a form of insider trading, in my opinion, but it's
And
very
that's
close to it.
illegal.
It's exactly. So, you have like a post by Berwick Law saying, if you lost money on the HAWK TUAH coin, contact our firm to learn about your legal rights. People lost millions and they want her jailed for it. And now law firms are looking to sue the living shit out of her. So this is definitely a developing story.
Now, I'm gonna tell
But
you why I sympathize with her a little bit.
go on.
I think some people get um fame status so quickly they don't know who to turn to for advice. And she may not know anything. May not know anything about cryptocurrency, nothing. And someone was like, "Hey, here's a good idea for you," and she's probably like, "Okay." Now, if she if she benefited from this financially, that's unfortunate because then she's implicated.
Okay.
But
Totally.
if she just followed the advice of a financial advisor and was ignorant about this process, and then maybe she's a victim in this case. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I
she
do
might be.
sympathize with people who like get so rich so fast and they're like, I don't know who to turn to, and they make really, really big mistakes.
No, totally. And it sounds like this guy's part of a team, as he kept saying, foundation. And, you get promised things. All of a sudden, you're famous. You want to maximize your income as much as you can because you know that it doesn't last forever. Someone promise you what seems like a good business deal, you take it. Uh, so I agree. Maybe she was victimized and stupidity there. But the minute someone asked me to do a crypto deal, I'm already sketched out.
Hmm.
So this is just me, in my comedian world. I don't know. If it's something where it seems like it's that high value, then I want a lawyer to look at that shit, and the lawyer can take a little cut. If it's gonna make as much money, if it's gonna make, it's not gonna hurt me to have someone who knows what the fuck they're doing take a look at it.
Yeah.
Uh, so at the end of the day, if she had any part in knowing that this was any bit sketchy and still did it, then she can figuratively and literally suck a dick. Because that's not
Mhm.
cool. So
Correct.
that's the thing with crypto crime, folks. Sometimes it'll spray you right in the face. So make sure you HAWK TUAH it.
If
But yeah.
I ever got in trouble for crypto crime, I would have so much trouble explaining my crime to my mother in a manner which she can understand. Like, hey, mom, like, there's this like currency that's could be potentially, worth a lot of money, but you can't touch it. It's money that you can't physically touch.
And can't really do anything with it.
You
And
can't take the money to a bodega and buy a
a
sandwich,
sandwich. Jinx,
but
you're
you
my
can
cook.
trade them. Like, it
And
makes no sense to me.
this coin is based after this girl who told the world how good she sucks dick.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be worth a lot of money, though. I'm telling you,
She's
Mom, I'm
got
not
that
crazy.
filleting finesse.
That's right. Filleting finances.
Yeah.
Oh man, on Fox Business.
Fellatio. Oh, heyo, heyo, heyo.
Oh man. Hey, Fox Business, call us. HAWK TUAH girl, call us. I think we're on to something here, the three of us. Oh man. Anyways, Mr. Mom. It is time now for like the real world for us to stop. What is it? Stop playing nice and get real. What is it that they used to say? You know what?
When 7 people have picked live in a house, and had their lives taped, and they stop being something and start getting real. The real world. I forget.
Yeah, stop playing nice and start being real. Is that what it is? I don't know.
Mm,
Anyways, it's time to real world this bitch because it's comedians roasting each other for 60 seconds. Oh, okay. Let me move my trusty timer over here so you can see it. Are you ready?
yeah.
Okay, we can do this in 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah. Now,
La la
Mr. Mom.
la 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 la. Just kidding.
I do have a job recommendation for you, by the way. I suggested you for this acting role that I think you would be perfect.
Yeah.
It was AIDS patient number 4. They said your
Oh, thanks.
complexion and skinniness really fits it. And it's like close to death AIDS patient, so you don't have many lines either. You're just kind of laying there. Like,
Okay, easy money. I'll do me, you do you. You do you because God knows no one else will. Do you believe in God? Are you
oh,
religious?
no, I'm not.
Because your existence proved to me that intelligent design does not exist.
Oh,
You
well,
helped
yeah.
me find my faith or lack of it. Thank
Speaking
you.
of intelligent designing not existent, I have seen you attempt to read, and that totally lost all my faith in intelligent design.
Jealous? I don't have the time or the crayons necessary to explain reading fundamentals to you.
That's comedians roasting each other. All right, I know. Jesus. Alarm doesn't want to cooperate with me. Jesus. Well, anywho, Mr.
Anywho,
Mo,
speaking
we
of
have made
money,
it. Speaking of money and speaking of financial crimes, this little episode was inspired by the HAWK TUAH girl. Because, ladies and gentlemen, she's not the only one to do something like this. In fact, it seems that with great celebrity power comes great white-collar crimes. Because we have an episode full of other celebrity cases that have done things like this. Goes to show, she ain't the only one. So this week, we're going to talk to you about some very famous, some very not famous that you might not have ever heard of, but they're good. These are celebrity financial crimes right here at the Fratchat Podcast. Oh, yeah. And with some spirit fingers there. We're ready to rock. Yeah, we got some good ones for you guys. Some of these, like I said, you might have heard of in the past. Some you might not at all. But these are going to be good. These are going to be good. Interesting shit here at the Fratchat Podcast. So, why don't you get us started with one, Mr. Mo?
Okay, so I was looking at it, and some people on in my research didn't really like surprise me. And I'm gonna say something that I probably shouldn't say. But like I saw that like Ja Rule went to jail for like tax evasion and Fat Joe, and I was like, well, in the hip hop community, it's so extravagant. I mean, like I think of like really expensive music videos and a lot of parties. I think of Cristal overflowing. And so
Totally.
like some people's names, honestly, I was like, okay, well, when I see them like at award shows or like out and about, like they're like decked in like expensive jewelry and stuff, like I see that maybe they're not the best with money. I'm not saying all hip hop artists, but when I think of just the hip hop industry, I think of like bling and I think of, you know what I mean? I think of parties. That's
Totally.
what I think. But then when I saw Lauryn Hill's name on the list, I was like, Lauryn Hill went to Catholic school with Whoopi Goldberg. Like she knows better, you know. It's like what? So,
Yes.
so in 2013, I didn't know this. You know, Lauryn Hill kind of dropped off the map a bit. She got super famous, super fast, super successful. Fuji's was Fuji's,
The Fugees. Not
Fuji's,
the Fijis.
Fuji's
Water.
water. Okay, so the Fugees were super successful, and then she had her own solo career. And the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that record is one of the best records I've ever owned. And she got super successful. And then later, she kind of fell off the map. And then in 2013, she was sentenced to a 3-month prison sentence after failing to pay about almost $2 million in taxes from 2005 to 2007. And it's so crazy to me that it took eight almost 8 years for the IRS to be like, wait a second, you owe us money. You know what I mean?
Totally.
This is a
That's
report from the BBC. And then later, like a few years later in 2016, some sources were saying that Lauren was facing tax troubles again, but she clarified on Twitter that she was not dealing with any new tax issues. It was just still working to resolve her previous tax debts. Um, but like, I think it's just crazy because um, the IRS will find you. May not be today, may not be tomorrow, but they will find you,
mm-hmm.
and it's gonna hurt. And also, um, I just know for myself that I made a big mistake when I first started working in New York. So New York taxes are really high. And so like when you get like if you get paid 6 figures in New York City and you live in New York City, you reside here, 6 figures doesn't stretch as far as it does in other places because um first of all the cost of living is expensive here, but also like whenever I don't make 6 figures, but whenever I look at like my paycheck, I'm like, holy shit, I know I'm familiar with federal taxes, but state taxes are extreme. And then there's local taxes, and local taxes are like city taxes.
Right.
And so, like, city taxes go towards like things you take for granted, like trash patrol and things like that, and whatever. So, anyway, my point is, I believe from a payroll legality standpoint that your job has to like make sure that paychecks deduct for federal and state taxes, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not required to deduct local taxes. But at the end of the
Huh.
tax season, you are required to pay that. And so when I was working for Cohen's Fashion Optical, it was the worst company I've ever worked for. I can tell you horror stories about how I was, um, I mean, I don't know they can get mad at me because this is my opinion, but I um I remember filing my taxes and owing $5,000. Like I was like, wait a
What?
second, I own I owe $5,000. It's because they never took out local taxes. I just moved here. I was like, oh no. But I filed taxes at the end of the year, and I for the next year was still not taking out taxes. I don't know how to explain it, but like at the end of the year, you get
You have to pay
your
'em again.
W-2 forms, and then I didn't really get my taxes done until probably like end of like March. Well, those 3
Wow.
months I didn't catch it for the first 3 months. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I didn't catch it in time to prevent the following year from making a mistake. But anyway, what I'm saying is that like sometimes I give leeway to people who have like tax issues because like if you're not used to having a lot of money or you don't know how things work, and if you partner with someone sketchy, like and then also like if you're young and you get your first job and you're filling out your W-4 forms, um, if you have questions about how taxes work, the HR department is legally not allowed to assist you. So you have to
Yeah.
Google and figure it out on your own. Like it's kind of scary if you're young and don't know any better.
Oh, totally. And with her, I will say, like you said, she was young, and in her case, being in entertainment, she's a contractor essentially. So you have all these multiple sources of income coming in. How do you keep, if you're smart, you hire someone to keep track of it all. But again, you're young, you're partying, you're riding the wave of your success. You're not thinking about all these things. Uh, you know, so I can see how for someone in her age and situation bracket would totally fuck up her taxes. Um, yeah, I can give her the benefit of the doubt. And how old? This is in 2013.
Well, she wasn't that
How
young at that point, so she maybe she knew better, but who knows? But then like that was in 2005. So years go by
So
and you
she's
forget about it, you don't
49.
think anything of it.
And she was born in 75, and so this is 2013, so 85, 95, 2005. She was like, man, she was like almost 40. Nah, fuck no. I take it back. By then, you
When
fucking know better, man. You
when
know
I
you
s-
got
when I said
taxes.
that when I say that young people, I sympathize with them. I wasn't really referring to Lauren. I was just saying just in
Okay,
general.
good.
Like I
Okay.
sympathize with the young people who like because no one coaches you. Like when I went to theater, when I went to school for theater, I wish that there was a whole like year of training on the commerce because we get
Totally.
groomed
Like
on the
taxes for a
art.
contractor show like that. That should be a class, like finances for actors and entertainers. Like that should be a thing. And it's not
Like
like economics, but it's like a basic class of how the fuck do your taxes, what you should look into, like how you should invest your assets once you start making money. Like you can prepare actors better in college than they do.
oh
So
yeah,
have them
and like
prancing
even
around like SEMO. Oh wait, what?
like I remember in my agency, and I felt like this was the responsibility of my college. I've spent a lot of money in my college to prep me for the real world, and I don't feel like I
Mhm.
was prepped for the real world. So at my agency, I would get sometimes a 1099 form. I would do some stuff on the side. And normally I got paid through the agency, but sometimes I do
Mhm.
some 1099 stuff. And these are jobs that I secured on my own without my agency. And I remember asking them like, "How's this work?" And then being like, "Okay, you have to put aside like at least a third of it because you'll be responsible to pay those taxes after you file. So,
Wow.
like whatever you earn, just put half aside, just be on the safe side.
Totally.
And some people file their taxes quarterly, as opposed
Mhm.
to annually, and like there's so much nuances. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have saved every receipt from dry cleaning or from
Totally.
the gym or
Transportation.
parking, anything that contributed to my career as a working
Mhm.
model. I should have saved all that stuff.
Mhm. I save all of it for entertaining. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I also like to go to like the Burbank Comedy Festival and shit like that. Like that's all stuff that you can deduct. So you just got to know that you are supposed to do it and keep track of your shit,
Hmm.
and obviously don't lie. but there's a lot of expenses that people don't even realize that are actually tax deductible. So just like you should literally Google if you ever have a question, you can literally Google it. So if you have any expenses that relate to your career in any way, and you're especially an independent contractor, literally just Google it. Is this tax deductible? And most of the time, I would say 99.5% of the time, it's correct. So you'll be fine. And if you use programs like like TurboTax and shit like that, what's the fucking one I use? Uh,
H&R
Goddamn it.
Block?
H&R Block. I was gonna say, man, I'm having a stroke over here.
That's where I go.
H&R Block. That's a good one. And they'll tell you this is not applicable. So you can just put in everything, and whatever isn't good, they literally the machine itself, the AI knows that you're being a dumbass and takes it out for you. So that's a great one to use. But yeah, man, be smart about your finances. I think Lauryn Hill should have known a little better. But you know, if she did, she wouldn't have made the list. And for that,
Mhm.
we thank you. Anyways, from the world of hip hop, now I'm going to take you on to the world of baseball. Charge. This guy, I'm going to butcher his name, but was his name is Douglas DeCinces, I think, or DeChinches. I think it's DeCinces. And in 2017, a federal jury convicted former professional baseball player Douglas DeCinces of insider trading charges for using non-public information to purchase stock in an Orange County company in transactions that netted him $1.3 million in profits. Now, a second man who illegally took the insider information from the scene says David Parker was also found guilty of violating federal securities laws. Apparently, the trial lasted about 2 months. At trial, prosecutors argued that DeCinces obtained the insider information from James V. Mazzo, a neighbor of him in Laguna Beach, who was the CEO of the Santa Ana based Advanced Medical Optics, Inc. Mazzo was accused of telling DeCinces that his company was going to be acquired by Abbott Laboratories. Um, the jury that convicted DeCinces and his friend David Parker was unable to reach a unanimous verdict on the charges against Mazzo, and Judge Guilford declared mistrial on those charges. But apparently, allegedly, Mazzo provided DeCinces with confidential information in advance of Abbott's January 2009 acquisition of Advanced Medical Optics. And so DeCinces and his associates, included Parker, increased from approximately $8 to $22 each share as a result of the acquisition. So that's a big, more than double your money, almost triple it if you invested. So the evidence presented at trial show that DeCinces liquidated his diverse stock portfolio of investments at Merrill Lynch, suffering approximately $80,000 in losses to obtain approximately $160,000 that he used to purchase stock in EYE instead. DeCinces ultimately purchased a total of 90,700 shares, which he sold soon after the offer was publicly announced, and realized approximately $1.3 million in profits, which is a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
Apparently, DeCinces also gave information on the acquisition of EYE to Parker, and after purchasing shares on that and selling them following the acquisitions, Parker realized illegal profits of nearly $350,000 himself. The jury ended up finding DeCinces guilty of 14 counts of insider trading, and the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict on 18 additional counts of insider trading, which were ended up declared a mistrial. His friend was convicted on 3 counts of insider trading. So, I mean, at that point, that is a very clear case of insider trading, which is, I have to say, it's tough, right? Because human nature, if someone fucking comes and gives you a hot tip, is going to tell you, oh, fuck yeah, I'm going to invest in that. You know what I mean? But if you know something that the rest of the world doesn't know, that makes it illegal. So I feel bad for the guy because who knows? I'm not saying I would have done it. If I clearly know it's insider trading, I'm not going to do it. But if someone comes at me and says, "Dude, buy stock in this. This great deal that's going to happen," I'm going to fucking do it. You know what I mean? It's like hell yeah. Why not? But you got to be careful with these things. When someone comes at you with a hot trading tip, I guess should ask them how they know, just to be safe. Or not, because then ignorance is bliss. Who knows? I don't know what your plan of action is here if you want to play the victim, but I don't know. I feel like the IRS always knows.
We were
There's
talking about this at
always
work
ways.
the other day, and so, I brought it up, and a coworker was like, "Oh my gosh, it's such a gamble." I was like, "Yes, it's gambling." And they're like, "Stocks and whatnot, that's not gambling." Like, yes, it is.
Yeah, it's
Yes, it
totally
is.
gambling.
If there's no guarantee, it's a gamble. That
Right.
hence the term gambling. So yeah, you
Totally.
are gambling. So if
Totally.
you don't want to take the gamble, then don't do it.
Totally.
To earn an honest living.
Some people lose a
Invest your
ton
money
of fucking
differently.
money on it. So yeah, it's a gamble. Sometimes the market can crash and you lose all your shit. But I will say, on average, if you're patient and you're at least read up on the stocks that you're going to buy into, so you're well informed on what you're buying, they will net go up as long as the company doesn't go under. Then you're fucked. So just invest in things that you think will be around longer than you. The Coca-Colas, the Disneys of the world. WWE stock is now worth more than fucking Disney since they merged with the UFC and shit. It's at like almost $150. When they started, when they first went public, they were like $14, and now it's
Wow.
145 bucks. So imagine buying a goddamn boatload of stock back then when I was in 6th grade and that shit went public. I'd be rich on wrestling. But anyway,
Who do you invest in?
I did a couple of airlines after COVID because during COVID they went down big time because no one was traveling. And so that was a good time to invest in that. Right now, they're very high because they've been killing it recently with all the Thanksgiving travel. So it's not necessarily the best time to buy into that now. Um, I did WWE. I did Disney, which at the time were down as well, and pretty much things were entertaining in entertainment and in airlines and travel and things that were at the time down. That's how I got into it. And so now I'm trying to figure out kind of where to invest in next. Because, like, as I've been able to sell a little bit, I've been buying in other stocks and other things I already own. But now, like I said, like the airlines are kind of hitting a max point where I can't buy more into it because it's more expensive than it's worth. And that has to go down at some point. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure where I'm going to jump into next. That's kind of where I'm at. So if you know anything, investor bros, that is not insider trading, any any good stocks to kind of start looking into, send us an email, fratchatpodcast@gmail.com. Again, we're not crypto bros here. We just, basic understanding of the stock market bros. So, anyways, what you got next, Mr. Mo?
Next, I have someone that I don't know if you would recognize his name. 'Cause I'm a little bit older than you, but do you remember someone named Heidi Fleiss?
Do I ever, dude? Woo!
Okay, so she was known as like the Hollywood Madam, and so she kind of got her start like
Yeah.
being a call girl, like being a prostitute, and she partnered with this girl named, well, someone named Madam Alex. And Madam Alex had this like ring of prostitution in LA. And then the girls got older. As they approached middle aged, um, Madam Alice was like, we're gonna retire. These girls they've done a good job, but their bodies have had it. So she they were like, listen, like Like, these girls drop their drawers and they roll up the red carpet. Their labia is stretched to the 9. Like, we gotta, like, do something about this. Like, get them to
Oh my
retire, you know?
god! They look like Simo's onesies.
You know? Exactly. So Heidi Fleiss, kinda took a page out of her, like, mentor's book, and she started to recruit people, that were younger
Mhm.
to, like, revamp this prostitution ring. And
Totally.
so, in 1990, when she, like, severed her links with, her boss, she began her own prostitution ring, and she stated, I'm getting this from Wikipedia. There's lots of articles about her, but she had stated that she made her first $1 million after only 4 months in the business as a madam,
Damn.
and that on her slowest night she would make like $10,000. So
Damn.
so by 1991, 1 year later, she was so successful that she was able to reject women who wished to work for her. So people would like audition for her because they knew she made a lot of money. Now, the difference between her and like Epstein is that Epstein would traffic girls. Like
Yeah.
they would like procure girls. There's no doubt in my mind that there's probably drugs involved. They would
Totally.
scare
It
them
was like
into
rape stuff that
staying.
was going on. Yeah, it was like
Yeah, they were
kidnapping.
underaged. There was a lot of problems. But like with Heidi Fleiss, from my understanding, girls sought these positions. They were of age, and
Yeah, they were
my whole
sex
thing is like
workers.
it's like your body, your choice. Like I'm not gonna judge.
Totally. They were
Um,
actually like actively like trying to, get some sugar daddies out of this, meet celebs, bang dudes, but like they were hookers. Meanwhile, with Epstein, there's a funny Sunny, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the gang buys a boat, and one of the characters, Dennis, talks about how he wants to bring girls on the boat, and he keeps explaining how there's basically like the insinuation of the potential repercussion of them saying no to you. Like you're out floating in the water, like you can't say no if you're gonna hook up with them, And everybody's like, "Are you saying you're gonna rape the girls?" It's like, no, 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 no. I'm just saying, like they won't say no because obviously you're floating. It's like, so why would you bring them into the water for them to feel that way? And it's kind of like that, you're basically taking these girls to this fucking island where they can't get in and out without you. You're filling them with drugs, and then you're basically like throwing these fucking hungry old dudes on them, and the repercussion insinuation is there that if you don't do what you're told, you're never going to get out of the island type thing.
right.
So totally different. And this is these women were a lot of the things that were done to like the Epstein girls was totally against their will, and it's super rapey. Meanwhile, this was like, like models and shit like that would look into working for Heidi Fleiss. It was like high end call girls. Like it was wild.
And
Charlie
then
Sheen
she
used to
dealt
fucking
with
be a customer.
well, a lot of Hollywood celebrities used to reach out to Heidi, be like, "What you got for me?"
Totally,
And like, what girl wouldn't want to hook up with like a huge Hollywood celebrity? You know what I mean?
totally.
I mean,
And
I'm
this
sure there's
was
some
like,
girls I wouldn't want to, but I'm saying me
yeah,
in my early 20s, if someone said you're gonna have an opportunity to have sex with I don't know, like Richard Gere, like back in the day,
totally.
or
And
like
this is prime
George
Richard Gere too.
Clooney.
And when I say Charlie Sheen, this is pre-AIDS Charlie Sheen. This is when
Yeah,
he was like super famous and like still working and like really good movies and like young and good looking. This is like when he was like pulling in like babes like Denise Richards into his life. You know what I mean?
totally. So someone told me you have an opportunity if you want it to have sex with George Clooney and get paid
And
thousands of
get paid
dollars.
for it. Hmm.
Absolutely, I would love to. Absolutely. So anyway, in 1993, she was arrested on charges including attempted pandering, and pandering is a fancy word for like procuring or like pimping. That's pimping, right? And so
Yeah.
later in 1997, the former Hollywood madam Heidi Fleiss was sentenced to 37 months in prison for tax evasion and money laundering. reported the LA Times. After serving 20 months in prison, she was released to a halfway house to complete her term. Unfortunately, she had some drug issues. But then she became kind of a household name, and a lot of women stood behind her as like feminists. Like you're
Yeah,
a woman entrepreneur, like good for you. Like
totally.
you know,
And she
um,
got some TV shows after the fact, and there's like a couple like made for TV movies about her. So word did get out about her. I will say, I do dig how fucking classy and cool it sounds to be called a madam. You know what I mean? Like a pimp, a pimp sounds dirty as shit. You're just out there slapping hoes. It sounds like, ugh, it sounds so derogative. Meanwhile, a madam, like that's classy and cool as fuck.
well, I also like the fact what I think is classy is that Heidi never gave her list of men. She's
Yeah,
like,
she ain't no rat,
I honor that like
and that's why they fucked her. That's why they fucked her
confidentiality.
financially.
Mhm.
Yep. Like if she had ratted, the government wouldn't have pursued nearly the case that they did against her. They would have let her keep a lot of her money. She would have to obviously get out of the business still, but like she would have been still fine because she had made money. But when they fuck her over like that, they like seized a lot of her assets and shit like that. So she was left with nothing.
You know,
But she could have ratted and been fine. And it just shows she's a hard, real bitch. Love you, Heidi.
so when you make money off the record, under the
Mhm.
table, and you're
Mhm.
making big purchases, the IRS goes, "Wait a second."
Yep.
So like we have a fraternity brother who'll be nameless, but made a lot of money, bought a house right off campus, and I think the IRS was like, "How like you haven't reported any income.
Right.
How are you able to buy a house in cash and vehicles and this and that? Like, how's that happen?" And so then you are a walking red flag, you know?
Mhm.
I think that's what ultimately got her. She had all this money. They were like, IRS is like, wait a second, like
Totally.
you
It's like,
owe us
how are you hanging
money.
out with Charlie Sheen? Yeah, no, that'll get you. And so that's why you can't be stupid in those situations. Like in Goodfellas, for example, that's a famous scene. One guy gets killed because he keeps spending his money after a robbery, and it's gonna alert the pigs. You know what I mean? So he ends up
Yep.
being taken care of for not knowing to control himself. If you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do the crime, you got to take it easy. Don't be
Yeah.
a moron. But I can also imagine. Here's something, and this is maybe I'm stupid for being quote unquote honorable this way, but I like declaring everything possible with taxes just because especially right now, I feel like I have way more liabilities than I have like income. Like I spend a lot of money on shit. So just to be an entertainer, for example. Like
Like Doritos,
that's right.
video games,
That's
OnlyFans
right.
accounts.
Totally. But like just for example, acting, casting websites, all those memberships you got to pay for, technology upgrades. I have to buy a new laptop this year, all this shit. So like I like declaring every little piece of every income I have because I know at the end of the day, when I put all the stuff that I've actually spent that's deductible, Uncle Sam's still gonna owe me some money. So it's like I want them to know exactly what is owed. Because I ain't no schemer, you know what I mean? But I can't imagine purposely trying to lie about that shit because it does keeping track of a lie becomes a full-time job, especially a financial lie. You know what I mean? You'll always have to be able to explain that crime away and in a way that's convincing. And if you fuck a little piece of information up along the way, you get hauled off to jail. Like the
Yeah.
IRS is not the one you want to fuck with, people. Let that be the theme of this episode. Don't fuck with the IRS. But anyways, uh, up next, I'm gonna take you from the world of baseball to the world of football, and not my football, American football, with Coach Jim Donnan, a University of Georgia coaching legend and TV analyst. who in 2012 was accused by the Securities and Exchange Commission, aka SEC, of fraud charges, and alleging that the former college football coach teamed up with an Ohio man to conduct an $80 million Ponzi scheme that included other college coaches and former players among its victims. The SEC alleged that Jim Donnan and let's see, committed the fraud with his business partner Gregory Crabtree through a West Virginia-based company called GLC Limited. Dunn and Crabtree told investors that GLC was in the wholesale liquidation business and earning substantial profits by buying leftover merchandise from major retailers and selling those discontinued, damaged, or returned products to discount retailers. And they promised investors exorbitant rates of returns ranging from 50 to 380%. However, only about 12 million of the 80 million raised from nearly 100 investors was actually used to purchase leftover merchandise. Woof. And the remaining funds were used to pay fake returns to earlier investors or stolen for other uses by Donnan and Crabtree. Which is literally a Ponzi scheme. So,
Yeah.
and here's a quote here. Donnan and Crabtree convinced investors to pour millions of dollars into a perfectly unique and profitable business with huge potential and little risk, said William P. Hicks, Associate Director of the SEC's Atlanta Regional Office. But they were merely pulling an old page out of the Ponzi scheme playbook, and the clock eventually ran out. According to the SEC's complaint, the scheme began in August 2007 and collapsed around October 2010. Donnan recruited the majority of investors by approaching contacts he made as a sport commentator and coach. For instance, he capitalized on his influence over one former player by telling him, "Your daddy's going to take care of you. If you weren't my son, I wouldn't be doing this for you." The player later invested $800,000, which is that's a weird way to
Show
I'm
your
your
love.
daddy. Ew, coach, put your pants back on. Anyways,
Yeah.
the SEC complaint alleged that Donnan touted GLC's success and profitability and told investors that the company could enter into even more merchandise deals with more capital. Donnan and Crabtree offered and sold investments that were short term, 2 to 12 months, and purportedly high yield with returns paid to investors in monthly or quarterly installments or in a one time payment. Donnan told investors their money was being used to purchase specific items of merchandise that was often pre sold, so there was little to no risk to investing in any deal. However, much of the merchandise that GLC actually purchased was merely left unsold and abandoned in warehouses in West Virginia and Ohio. Ooh. The SEC also alleged that Donnan typically assured investors that he was investing along with them in any merchandise deal that he offered. He touted that he and other prominent college football coaches had successfully and profitably invested in GLC, but by the time the scheme collapsed, Donnan had actually siphoned more than $7 million away from GLC, and
Wow.
Crabtree misappropriated approximately $1.08 million in investor funds. And lastly, the SEC's complaint charged Donnan, who lived in Athens, Georgia, and Crabtree from Ohio, with violations of the anti-fraud and the registration provision of the federal securities laws. The complaint also names two of Donnan's children and his son-in-law as relief defendants for the purpose of recovering illicit funds that Donnan steered to them. And note, this is crazy, Coach Donnan was found not guilty after the trial. He claimed that he was
What?
misled by his partner, Crabtree. The partner did plead guilty, and I'm not sure exactly what will happen to him, but somehow, some way, Donnan was able to convince the jury that he was led along for the ride. Not gonna lie, I wasn't at this court case, and I don't know what evidence was presented and what wasn't allowed to be presented because that ultimately determines the case, But that sounds sketchy as shit.
Sounds
Like,
like
what? How
the
do you not gonna know? It's ridiculous.
it also kind of sounds like maybe the judge was like in on it. I don't know.
I know, right? Like, this is it's like kind of wild.
It's kind of like a cut and
Oh,
dry case to
yeah.
me, you know?
Right? Like there's like they didn't even sell anything. It was all sitting in a fucking warehouse. Uh Literally he diverted money from the fucking thing, which I'm sure there's business records. You can like I mean and also like only 12 million of the 80 million raised went to actually buy stuff, which I guess you could maybe the partner could have been doing all the buying and lied to Coach Donnan about this, but I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough. I guess if you trust someone, like let's say like me and you had a business and I trusted that you're selling your end of the deal, I wouldn't assume to question any financial records. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
could see it from that point of view, but when you're dealing with that kind of money and you're promising returns as soon as monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly or lump payments as they were, uh you have to know that what you're promising, like you can deliver what you're promising. You know what I mean? Especially as he was offering up to that guy, I'm your daddy, invest
Yeah.
me some money.
hmm
I love you, son. Ew, get your finger out of there, coach. So I don't know. This is definitely sketchy as shit, but he was declared innocent in court, so I can't say too much because legally
hmm
he was acquitted, so I don't want to get sued. So that's Jim Donnan, from the University of Georgia coaching legend, status, and TV analyst. Who you got next?
Well, next up, I have one of my favorite moments in reality television, and that is when the girls of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City were on a bus getting ready to go on a trip, and Jen Shaw, um, who whose husband is coach, I think his name is Sharif Shaw. I
Okay.
I think he's like an assistant coach for like a college team, but he makes like boku bucks. Like who knew that like coaches make so much money?
Oh,
But anyway, Jen
yeah,
Shaw,
Sharif Shah.
she got a phone call, and I'm assuming that someone tipped her off, and she said on camera like, "Sorry, at this like emergency, I had to go." So she left, and after she left, the remaining cast, and the crew were interrupted by Homeland Security looking for Jen Shaw. So they
No.
they come in on set, they're like, "Where is she?" They're asking questions, and all the girls are scared, like, "What's going on? What's happening?" No one knows. And so that was kind of like her legacy in the show. So Wikipedia says that she's known for a charismatic and controversial role in the show. Um, but I wouldn't say that she was
She definitely wrote that
charismatic.
herself.
Yeah, I wouldn't say she was charismatic. I would say she was a fucking pit bull. She was argumentative. She was uh I think at odds with everyone at some point. She was just nasty. She would tell people she's
Wow.
gonna beat their ass, and she would cry and overreact and have anger management issues. She would throw glassware. She was psycho, absolutely
Wow.
psycho. And she was very uh I would probably assume that she's pretty um irresponsible with spending, and a lot of department stores had clocked her for always using cash, and they're like, that's weird, like
Hmm.
you carry a lot of cash with you."
Sketchy.
So anyway,
That's so
um
sketchy.
so her career in reality TV on this um on Real Housewives of Orange County was obviously overshadowed by legal issues. So in 2022, she pled guilty. Do you say pleaded or pled? She pleaded guilty, or she
I
pled guilty?
actually meant to ask you that how you say it because I think I say pled,
I would
but
say pled.
it's when you type in pled, it says pleaded.
Yeah. I don't feel
So
comfortable
I don't
saying
know.
pleated because I think it pleated pants.
Exactly. I think of pants. I'm like,
So
I say
in
pled. So
2022, she
okay, we can
pled
be wrong.
guilty to charges related to telemarketing scheme, and the scheme would target like vulnerable people, like elderly people, and like with like suck them dry of their funds. It's really sad. Like, they
Ugh.
really preyed on unfortunate people.
Wow.
So,
Let me tell you, if I'm gonna get sucked dry of anything, I'd rather it be the HAWK TUAH girl. And
yeah, me too. And I'm gay. Um, so
she
she
sounds like she knows what she's doing.
she ultimately pled guilty, but on the show, she's like, I'm not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. And then ultimately she pled guilty. But when she was originally arrested, I think in March of 2021, she was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering in connection with the telemarketing scheme. Um, and I think there might be like some documentary on Hulu. It's called Housewife and the Shocker. So that launched like 3 or
Is
4
that,
years ago.
is that Hulu or is that Pornhub?
Sounds like the Shocker.
That's how you pay your debts. 2 in the pink, 1 in the stink. Cha. Hey, it worked
Yeah.
for Farrah, right?
Well, she got a sentence of 6.5 years prison, which I think was probably nice.
Wow.
That
God
began
damn.
February of last year, so she's like almost 2 years in, and her sentence has since been reduced, I guess on good behavior because she can't like use a phone in jail. So
Wow.
she's expected to be released on December 19th, 2027. Hope she went back to the show.
Wow.
But like on the show, so
2027.
she I don't know what kind of fear she put in people, but she was a boss lady, and there was an incident where one girl on the set woke up with a black eye, and she swore up and down she didn't remember how it happened. And then a couple seasons later, she said, "I protected my friends, and I lied about Jen Shaw giving me a black eye that night because she didn't want her to get in trouble." But she got a black eye. And so that was upsetting to me. Her name is Heather
Wow.
Gay. Heather Gay got a black eye from Jen Shaw and lied about it and
It's
claimed
the
she didn't know what
gays.
happened and she protected Jen Shaw. But what happened was, I don't know this for sure. This is my assumption. This is from an HR perspective. Even though it's a TV
Okay.
show, it's the business. And so
Yeah,
when someone
totally.
gets
That's
hurt
reality
on
TV.
the job, then you have an obligation as a business owner or the producers to do a thorough investigation. So I guaranteed every
Totally.
cameraman and every cast member were interrogated and possibly accused of foul play when in reality, the victim knew all along who hit her and she lied about it. I think
Mhm.
she should get in trouble for that.
I mean, here's the thing: if the victim felt the need to hide it from her or to protect her, then there's more to the story. Uh,
I think they
like
were
I
having
had to.
some girl on girl action and it got rough. I always got a
Ooh,
lesbian
I could
vibe from
see
the
that.
both of them.
I could see that. I could see
I
that.
think there was
But
scissoring and whatnot.
I had to unfortunately punch a friend or two back in my day when they were severely intoxicated and acting a fool. And the next day, on both cases, they both apologized to me and said, I was in the wrong. So don't feel
Does
bad for
this friend
punching
live in
me.
New York as of recent?
Maybe.
I know who this is.
But sometimes things happen, unfortunately, but it's not gonna go around punching people. So I don't know. If they feel the need to cover for her, then they'll feel like there's two sides to that story for sure, as opposed to like, like just like a fucking beatdown where you're just sitting there and someone just punches you in the face. So I would like to hear more about it though, but that is wild. Wow, can you imagine
Yeah,
Homeland
crazy.
Security. Fucking nuts. There's actually a documentary on the girls that were breaking into celebs' homes in the 2000s and robbing them. And then one of them was getting at her own reality TV show at the time. And they were filming like the opening season. And apparently the producers were like, this show is fucking awful. There's no way it will make the light of day. And then in the middle of filming, randomly, like the cops fucking came in and arrested them for theft and shit. And then the producers were like, "Yes, something interesting happened." But they were never able to sell the show. But they were like, I remember the producer, like, we all looked at each other like, finally, which is fucking wild. But yeah, can't imagine getting arrested on live TV. That's so cops, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what
Yeah.
you expect to watch The Housewives. But that's fucking wild. Jen Shah, man. And I have a feeling it's not the last time we'll see a housewife pop up on this
She'll
list.
get a book
But
deal out of
anyway,
this. She'll get a lot of interviews and a lot of like press when she gets out of jail.
totally. But it's wild. Just that she gets out in 2027. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, that's still like 3 years away. Like, fuck.
I think her
That's
sentence
so
will be
fun.
reduced again. I
Yeah, I
think we'll
mean,
see her
with good
sooner.
behavior. But man,
Overcrowded in
it's
prison.
crazy. And like you said, that when she gets out, her name, especially on a reality show like that, where you know they get kind of boring after a while. Like you need some kind of new drama, returning characters and shit like that. Like for example, Sammy Sweetheart came back to Jersey Shore, and it's like a whole new show again. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much more to do now that she's back. As opposed to was kind of getting a little stagnant before. And Ronnie's coming back too, so you know it's like now gives you a reason to watch. Same thing here. Characters leave and the seasons start kind of getting kind of man, so you start losing fans. Her coming back, that's a big boost to a show like that. So
Oh yeah.
I can see her commanding a nice salary when she gets out. Let's just say that. Anyways, up next, speaking of the Jersey Shore, actually, I'm going to take you to the most famous case coming from that show. That being Mike, the Situation Sorrentino, who at first was known for his fist pumping, partying ways, and MTV's Jersey Shore reality TV show from 2009 to 2012, and his washboard abs. I have to say, at the time, too, he was like 30, so pretty impressive abs.
He was in incredible
And then
shape.
he went on. Yeah, he was fantastic shape. Apparently, he aside from working out, he was into a lot of drugs. So that'll do it. But then when he came back to the Jersey Shore family vacation, he was a little different. He was a little chunkier. He was a little more mature. Life had been kicking him quite a bit in the ass. And it was because in 2014, he was officially charged with tax fraud for failing to pay taxes on $8.9 million of income. And then 3 years later, in 2017, he was also charged with tax evasion and structuring bank deposits to avoid reporting thresholds. In 2018, he settled a plea deal when she pled guilty. See, pled. I don't know. He settled with a plea deal to which he pled guilty to one count of tax evasion, and he was sentenced to 8 months in prison, followed by 2 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. He also served 8 months at a prison in New York in 2019, which was documented on the Jersey Shore Family Vacation show. The whole thing, the case, when he gets convicted, when he goes into jail, some of his stay there, and when he gets out. And it's funny, or I guess I should say coincidental, that he was serving jail time in the same jail, and he actually got to know the guy who did the fire festival. Uh, what was his name? Fire Festival founder Billy McQuaid or something. Billy McFarland. Uh, they were in the same jail, and so I can imagine the conversations those two must have had. But I will say this is the one on the list because no, in this particular case, also Situation's brother had a big part in this too. He was apparently the guy handling most of Situation's finances himself, and he ended up getting an even bigger jail sentence. I think he got 3 years for his worth. So this is tough. this is one of those where I can see situation being. I mean, he was kind of a dumbass back then. You know what I mean? So I can totally see them trying to hide some money here and there, but also just being on drugs, being in a whole different world, and trusting your brother to do your taxes while he's also stealing from you has to be a tough reality check to get. But he's one that I have to say in a way, the ass kicking that life gave him was for the best because he ended up overcoming his demons. He's sober now. He's an incredibly nice guy, from what it seems like. He's out there helping people who are in his situation. Some pun intended, because I'm awesome. He really turned his life around for the best, and now he's got an even bigger house than he ever did. Now he's doing well financially again. It's like he was able to recover his empire in a young enough age to appreciate it all better. And I mean, I gotta give it. He calls himself Big Daddy Sitch. I gotta give it to the man. He really, really made his life better and is out there helping people, which is more than you can say for a lot of other people on this list. So good for him. Situation. Good for him.
I remember watching the footage of him going to jail, like his last
Yeah,
like ride in the van, like on his way to like get locked up. Ugh, so sad. And it's such like a stupid reason to go to jail, like just not. I
totally.
don't know. I
I will
and I and
say the J still was just short enough for him where it was, and like I said, it wasn't a terrible jail. Like he wasn't out there getting stabbed, but he was able to get himself in shape while he was in there. Like it was kind
because
of
he
like
started
a
to get a
summer
little. He
camp.
got a little soft.
Totally, because he was getting doughy. So he was able to get himself beefy again. So I feel like his jail stay wouldn't be the worst situation. I've seen other jails where it's like, ugh, I could never fucking stay at those. Like imagine Rikers Island, but he was like in a nicer. He was in a white collar prison. You know what I mean? So
How
we
does
would
he look
stay at those.
today?
That's right. We would.
Is
we
he
would
back
be.
in shape?
He's like he's jacked. He's got like really muscular arms and chest, but he eats a lot still. So he's got a little bit of a dad bod, but he's like jacked. So but definitely no like 9-pack anymore. But he looks good. He definitely looks way better than when the show first came back. And you could tell that he was just not in a good place.
He was
You
such
know.
an instigator. Wasn't he the one that wrote the note?
No, that was Jenny and Snooky,
Oh,
actually.
they
But
wrote the note.
he definitely was a huge instigator back in his day. And I'm not gonna lie, he was also hilarious. So he was a tough character because you just loved to hate him because he was such a fucking douchebag. But every once in a while, he would do something nice, and you're just like, "Damn it, I kind of like you." Or he would say something funny. Uh, but he definitely was an instigator. But it's funny to watch him now. He's a father of like 3 kids now versus when he was, calling girls grenades and shit.
Yeah.
I feel like he had the most drastic turnaround in personality. The rest of them, to be honest, are kind of similar these days, but he is the one that's totally fucking different. But that's Mike's situation. Sorrentino. Who you got
Well, I'm gonna
next?
go out of order a little bit on my list. I'm gonna go with uh Wesley Snipes for
Yeah,
tax evasion. And when I think of Wesley Snipes, I don't think about this. I think that his career and his like prominence as like a action star,
totally.
um, like
He actually made a
trumps
joke
this.
about being away for taxes in the Expendables movie. Because basically the movie opens up with them breaking him out of jail, some like jail that he was in, some Russian jail or some shit like that. And so they ask him, "Why were you in there?" And he looks to the camera and like breaks the fourth wall for a second. And he goes, "Taxes." It's like, good for you, dude. That's so good. but anyways, go on.
So the judge really threw the book at him, and the
Yeah,
reason why is because it was what they considered willful failure to file federal tax returns. So like, you know, sometimes the court will give you leeway if you didn't know. If you're ignorant,
Mhm.
you didn't know, okay, well, you did a crime, but you didn't know. But if they can prove that you did know better, but you chose to do the wrong thing because you were shady, they're
Totally.
gonna throw the book at you. And so it was unfortunate, but um he served I think 28 months in federal prison, um, which is less than the 3 years that he was sentenced.
Mhm.
He was convicted on misdemeanor charges of willful failure to file federal income tax returns. Uh, and the conspiracy charge against him alleged that he agreed with some other guys to file false amended returns for 1996, 1997. It's just so
Mm.
funny to me because, again, this is like years before. Can you imagine, being shady and filing taxes wrong to make more money or to save more money,
Yeah, and
and
going back.
then you think that you're in the clear, they didn't say anything year after year, you're like, "I won. I beat the system. I took a page out of Donald Trump's book, and I found the loophole," you know? And so then years later, IRS is like, like, "We're caught up with our paperwork. It took us a while, but we got you." Um, so apparently over, like, 2 years, they, let's see, it says that he had filed false amended returns for 96 and 97, which included false tax refund claims totaling over $11.3 million dollars for those 2 years. That's a lot in just 2 years.
That's
The
wild.
government, um, it says here, the government alleged that Snipes attempted to obtain fraudulent tax refunds using a tax protester theory called the 861 argument, an argument that the domestic income of U.S. citizens and residents is not taxable.
Just
So I don't
dumb.
quite understand what that means, but the government alleged that Wesley Snipes sent three fictitious bills of exchange for $14 million to the IRS. Now, what I think is actually kind of like goofy is that he was just really pulling at what's the term? Pulling at strings or pulling at straws?
Mhm. Grasping at straws?
Grasping at straws, is that the term? He was
Well, it
grasping
depends
at
what you're trying to
straws.
say.
Well, because um uh the so this indictment charged that Snipes failed to file tax returns for any of the years from 1999 through 2004. And then he responded to this indictment, declared himself as a non resident alien of the United States. But in
Mm.
reality, he is a birthright US citizen. So,
Yeah,
like,
totally.
he was really trying to find like any loophole at all. And I would have a lot more respect if he was like, oh shit, you're right. I had
Yeah.
bad legal counsel and I knew better, but I didn't think much of it. And you're right. I'm caught. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Like, how do I fix it? Instead, he was
Totally.
like trying to find all these excuses. And I just thought it's disappointing because it lacks character, you know?
And here's the thing, though, by the time that he was caught, his net worth, his movies weren't making as much anymore, like, the Blade series was about his last big, hurrah before he came back for the Expendable films, which at this point he had already spent time in jail. So, by the time that you're done with these and you get caught, now you get a what, $19 million bill from the IRS. How the fuck do you pay that off? You're not making uh, $19 million movies contracts anymore. So that's where it gets sketchy too to do these deals when you're commanding a certain kind of income. And then, by the time you get caught, you might not be commanding that income anymore, and that bill's not going to go away, and the IRS is going to be pissed. So,
Right.
like going back and amending tax returns to get more money back, it's just like at that point, it's like, come on, dude. Like we all met. I've left out things that I'd remember like years later. It's like shit. I could save another 300 in those tax, and I've just bit the bullet. I'm like, fuck. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Like Uncle Sam, you get to keep this one for free. Even though you technically, I could have made a little more money back in my tax return, but I fucking like find a receipt that of something that I didn't declare because At the time, I didn't have the receipt, and then I ended up finding it. It's like, fuck, that could have saved me $200. Well, Uncle Sam, you get to keep it this year. Like, it's like you don't go back and redo your taxes and shit to find loopholes and old stuff too. That's just wild. So it goes to show this really was. I'm not going to call it a well thought of campaign because it sure as hell wasn't well thought of, but it was something that someone thought through and was like, "Oh, you got this, Wesley. Don't worry." And I guess you trust your legal counsel. And someone tells you, "Don't
Yeah.
worry, I got this." Well, you'll be fine. You just do what they say. So I will say, whoever was his handler in this particular situation is definitely someone who should be disbarred because that is terrible legal advice. And the
Mhm.
whole thing of, I'm a non-resident alien. I've seen person after person after person claim that shit in court, and it never ever works. So for the love of fucking God, whoever thinks that you're like a smart, self-representing lawyer by pulling that fucking dumbass theory out of your ass, you sound stupid. You're trying to sound smart, but you sound like a dumbass. And none of them have ever been able to effectively explain that shit in court in a way that sounds convincing enough to not make you sound like a complete fucking dumbass. So for the love of God, stop using that goddamn excuse. It's stupid.
Agreed. I
God
agree.
damn it. Grinds my gears. I see it on TikTok
Damn
all
it.
the time. Fucking morons. The laws don't apply to me. I don't need to drive with a driver's license because, I am a non-resident alien. I can do what I want. It's like, no, dude. What the fuck? The laws of your land don't apply to me. Say what, dude? Your name is Greg, okay? The laws apply to you, Greg. Anyways.
Your name is Connor. Come on, Connor.
It's like, shut up. You were
Let's go
shoplifting at a
back to the
Target.
let's take you home to the Upper East Side because mommy's making
That's
dinner.
right. Anyways, up next, back to the world of reality TV, which there does seem to be a correlation between reality TV stars and this list. Just saying. We're going to go with Todd and Julie Chrisley, who are known from the long-running reality TV show Chrisley Knows Best on USA Network. They were both sentenced to prison on November 21st, 2022, after being convicted of bank fraud and tax evasion. First, Georgia real estate tycoon Todd Chrisley, 54, was sentenced to 12 years in prison, while his wife, Julie Chrisley, 49, was sentenced to 7 years in prison for her involvement in the scheme. Both faced 3 years of probation after prison. And according to People magazine, the couple faked audits, bank statements, and their personal finances to acquire $36 million in loans. The fraudulent loans were then used to pay back old loans and enhance their extravagant lifestyle, including buying luxury cars, designer clothes, and paying for travel. Their TV series, including spin-offs Grown Up Chrisley and Love Limos, were all canceled, and the
Love
couple
limo.
reported.
Is that like
Yeah,
cash cab or
I have no.
like,
I've
like
never heard of Love Limo. I was hoping that you had, but it sounds kind of rapey.
it sounds almost like the Bang Bus.
Yeah, exactly. Join the Love Limo and you can see double Asian action.
Yeah.
And the couple reported to prison in 2023, so last year, and have been there since. And when asked how he is doing in prison, Chris Chrissy said, I don't know. Being in an environment surrounded by all men just feels right for some reason.
What's a better kept secret? His sexuality or the finances? Because I don't
Yeah,
think the
right?
sexuality is a secret.
Because it's like, I remember hearing him talk the first time I ever watched the show, and I was like, come on. Really? Like, I have friends who are questionable, but this is like, how is anyone not questioning this? Like, are you serious, bro?
It's
Come
crazy.
on.
Remember when their daughter was a keynote speaker for the Republic National Convention? What's her name? Savannah? And she
Yeah.
was like, Republican. Oh no, the Democrats did this,
The damn
Democrats did that.
Democrat judges, those
Like,
liberal judges, got my daddy, even though he fucking stole
like,
$36 million in loans.
yeah, like No, your dad's a criminal, and he got caught,
Yeah. And,
and
like,
you
come
sound like
on,
an
dude.
idiot by association.
And it's also like he's using it to pay old loans, which kind of is making it like Ponzi scheme-ish if you think about it. But also like you're not using the money to help feed your family. You're fucking buying luxury cars and Gucci bags and shit like that, like Gucci shoes. Like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? It's like you're literally just being the biggest piece of shit possible with the money. And you don't need to because you're already rich and you have 3 fucking TV shows that are making you, I assume, pretty good money because he was also not just a star in them, but he was like an executive producer in all these shows. So you're making double bang for your buck. It's like,
Yeah,
did you even need to do this? Like, what is the at that point? Like, do you really like? Can't you just sit back and enjoy the cash cow? Like, like you're fine. Ugh. It just blows my fucking mind. And people say, oh, these things, well, he's not really stealing money from anyone. It's just the bank. Dude, money is not fucking infinite. If the bank gives Chris Chrisley a loan, or Todd Chrisley, I'm sorry, a loan for $36 million, that means that there's plenty of small businesses who are not getting that $6 million loan and that $2 million loan. Because get what? Guess what? The bank's money gets tied up over there with Todd Chrisley. And they're not gonna fucking just give everybody money. So the rich guy gets the money and the small business owner doesn't, and doesn't even, guess what? The rich guy doesn't even need the fucking money. He's stealing it. So those types of things hurt small business because then that means that someone else is not getting their loans approved. So you have to think about it. Those are not victimless crimes. There are victims, and it's literally the mom and pop shop that can't open up anymore because the bank said no. So
correct.
these things are wild to me, and these types of crimes piss me off. And I do think 12 years is a little harsh for what they got, but it is kind of funny when people like this get the fucking book thrown at them. And I'm sure he'll be out way before 12 years, but it is hilarious to see the devil get their due in these cases. So I didn't necessarily hate when the book gets thrown away at people who just, do shit like this. But anyways,
I think they got in trouble for other things too. I thought that they got in trouble for, like, real estate related things.
oh, I'm sure there's so much in there with these goddamn people, these reality TV stars. What happened to the good ones who just spank their friends on TV? Don't do financial crimes like us.
Yeah, I I can't find it, but I was looking on the anyway, it's okay. Doesn't matter. So, next up on my list, I wanna talk about okay, so I was a little obsessed with this guy. His name's Al Capone. Because I used to live in a
Yeah.
building in Chicago that was a big hangout spot for him. So the building is an apartment building now, but it used to be this like beautiful hotel with this grand ballroom. The ballroom was converted to a gym. It was the prettiest gym I've ever worked out in my life. And this building was called the Sovereign. And the Sovereign was pretty cool because um there were like tunnels that led to like Lake Michigan, and they would smuggle alcohol from Canada to America during Prohibition, because at one point it was illegal to have alcohol in America, you know? And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
I think people appreciated Al Capone and his parties because they're like, I want to drink. I want to let loose.
Totally.
The Great Depression was really bad. I want to let loose, you know. So actually, Al Capone killed some people in the building that I lived in, and there were 3 rooms that they had sealed shut because there's too much reports of paranormal activity. And actually,
Wow.
when I lived there, one of the first memories of living in that building was whoever lived in the penthouse suite jumped off the building. And so, like, there was a lot of weird stuff, and I heard a lot of things and stories, and I ended up breaking my lease and being like, I gotta go. I don't want to stay here anymore. So,
That's creepy as shit.
yeah, dude. Like little like for example, one time I was getting my mail. I had a package at the front desk. They would receive packages for us. And I said, oh, this girl in front of me was crying. And she said, I think there's a domestic dispute in the apartment next to me. Can you please send someone to check on her? Like, I think he's hurting her." And they said, "Okay, okay." And then afterwards, she left, and I was like, "I'm here to pick up a package." And they were like, "We don't know what to do because no one lives in that apartment next to her. It's sealed. Like, no one's in there." And I was
Oh
like,
my
"La, la, 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 I don't wanna hear anything
fucking
about it. Just give me my package, please." So,
That
anyhow,
is fucking terrifying.
so
Oh my
scary.
god. Yeah, no, get me the fuck out of there. Oh,
So Al Capone was an interesting character because, like, we talked about this off air, but these mobsters that like ran the city, they were like celebrities. Like we didn't
mhm,
have Halle Berry and Gwyneth Paltrow, and what I mean, back then, like we had like these mobsters who dominated the headlines and
right.
who the public was fascinated with.
Totally, and
He,
they're the best dressed people in America at the time. They
oh
made
yeah,
they made dressing to the nines look cool, the suits and shit. Like really, it's funny because at that age, mobsters were America's first influencers. Really, this is around the time you start getting TV cameras and newspapers everywhere. Like Bonnie and Clyde were fucking fashion icons. Like it's fucking wild. So they were the celebrities back then before you had the modern day celebs that you think of today.
well, I I don't know my American history super well, obviously, but like there's a lot of wars. There was almost a 10-year span, I guess, of like Great Depression where everyone was broke.
Totally.
People were starving. It was scary. And so like I don't know if I lived back then and like I fought for the country or set my children to fight for the country and I couldn't make ends meet and I felt responsible. I don't know if I really had that much respect for the government. I'd be like, "What are you doing for me?" You know what I
Totally.
mean?
And that's why you see mobsters, their lifestyle too was aspirational because they were the ones that figured out a way to finally make ends meet when no one else could. And so you're seeing these guys, and that's why people started supporting them. You lose faith in the government, and then you're fucking dressed like shit. You can't even afford shoes anymore. And then you see this guy walk in the nicest suit you've ever seen in your life with $100 bills in his pocket. You're gonna fucking like that guy. He's certainly gonna be a
So
lot cooler.
Al Capone had a lot of dollar bills, and he probably rolled them up to snort coke because his
Yeah,
his
buddy.
like um his septum was like perforated from the amount of coke that he did. Like I think when he ultimately went to jail,
Damn.
he had like crazy withdrawal issues. So Al Capone is I I again don't quote me on this, but I think that he is connected to the Valentine's Day massacre.
Yes, he
So
is.
he was in Florida, so he has an alibi. He wasn't there, but we think that maybe he called the shots. And so
Absolutely call this shot.
on Valentine's Day, a long time ago, I think they were trying to murder one individual. So they had these guys dressed up like police officers and like round up like a
Mhm,
handful of men, and they used machine guns and just murder them, like destroyed
mhm.
them.
7
And
dudes. Yep.
unfortunately for Al Capone, like the guy in question he was trying to murder wasn't one of those 7 guys. So it was just a pointless like assassination, extermination of 7 people, I think. So
Mhm.
anyway, my point is that I think that was kind of to his detriment, his downfall, because all these headlines, all these journalists were like posting like pictures of this and talking about this, and it upset the community. And Al Capone was
Yeah.
so respected in a twisted way,
Well, he
so he
was
tried
looked
to,
at as, like, kinda like a Robin Hood type character, almost like
yeah.
Pablo Escobar would be later looked at. Pablo Escobar, sure, killed a bunch of people, but he also built villages and shit for the poor and gave them housing and would literally, like he had so much money that he would hand wads of cash to the poor because he couldn't fucking launder the money anymore. He had so much more that he could do with. So some people still hang Pablo Escobar pictures in their house in Colombia today. And this was the same thing here. And in Colombia, it was Pablo Escobar ordered the shot and knocking down this airplane to take out a political enemy that ended up killing a bunch of innocent people, and the guy wasn't even on the plane. So he had his very own St. Valentine's Day massacre. Same thing here, it's like now all of a sudden, how do you separate the man who might be the Robin Hood of the poor back then, of the American Robin Hood, with the pictures that you see in the media from this awful massacre? Because I mean, like you said, these motherfuckers got destroyed, like with these fucking Tommy guns too. Like there
Yeah.
was,
Well,
whoo, that was bloody.
I think afterwards, I think Al Capone like opened up a soup kitchen and in Chicago was like, "Look, I'm trying to help," and I think the
Yeah,
public was like, "We know all about you now. Like we're not
yeah,
interested
no,
in this."
fuck no.
So, he's had some like issues with law before because he was implicated with a lot of prohibition related things. What
Mhm.
did they call people like bootleggers? Was that people who
Yep,
like
yep,
made
bootleggers.
alcohol or something?
Yeah,
I'm not
totally.
sure. So in 1929, he was arrested by FBI agents when he left Chicago. As he left Chicago courtroom after testifying to a grand jury that was investigating violations of federal prohibition laws. He was charged with contempt of court for feigning illness to avoid an earlier appearance, and this was a habit of his. So he wouldn't go to court sometimes, as he'd be like, "I don't feel good. I'm sorry, I
Mhm.
can't make it." So finally, I think the FBI and the government were like, "Okay, he's just working us. Like we had to find a way to get to him. We know
Totally.
he's involved with all these murders, all this craziness, but we had to get him for somehow." So in the wake of the St. Valentine's Day massacre, there's this guy named Walter Strong, and he published the Chicago Daily News, and he asked his friend, President Herbert Hoover, for federal intervention to stem Chicago's lawlessness because this journalist was like okay, federal government, you had to intervene somehow because these big cities, Chicago, New York, these big cities were like governed by these mobsters. And you had to like rein them in because you guys are the government. Like you have to do something. So
Totally.
in Herbert Hoover's memoir, I think in 1952 he wrote this book, and he reported um that this journalist argued, quote unquote, Chicago was in the hands of the gangsters, that the police and magistrates were completely under their control, that the federal government was the only force by which the city's ability to govern itself could be restored. At once, I directed that all the federal agencies concentrate upon Mr. Capone and his allies. So that meeting launched a multi-agency attack on Capone. So all these agencies in the government were like, "Okay, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? We had to bring this guy down." So the Treasury and Justice Departments developed plans for income tax prosecutions against these gangsters. So this is interesting, but a couple years prior, um, there was this case called United States versus Sullivan. It was a U.S. Supreme Court case in 1927 that the approach was legally sound. That illegally earned income was subject to income tax. So the government was like, I don't care how you earned your money at this point. You may have got it illegally, but you owe taxes on it. So you're
Right.
not better than anybody else. You may have gotten your money illegally. Congratulations for finding a loophole, but you owe us some of that. So the key to Capone's conviction on tax charges was not his spending, but proving his income, and the most valuable evidence in that regard originated in his offer to pay tax. So the government charged Capone with the evasion of $215,000 on taxes, which is like millions of dollars in today's terms. So
Wow.
$215,000 in taxes on a total income of $1 million and some change. During the 5-year period, Capone was convicted on 5 counts of income tax evasion on October 17th, 1931, and was sentenced a week later to 11 years in federal prison, fined $50,000 plus $7,692 for court costs, and was held liable for $215,000 plus interest due on his back taxes. So, like, anyway, my point is, all these things added up, and it ruined him. It ruined him, and he had to go to jail. And
Mhm.
when he went to jail, he was sick. You wanna take it from here?
Because he got the syphilis. That's what happens when you have dirty, stinking, sexy time and don't protect yourself, kids. You get the syphilis.
Yeah. And he also had gonorrhea, I think. And so like he
Gonorrhea.
so he uh I've never had gonorrhea, so I don't know what it's like, but
You just
I
had
hear
syphilis.
I hear that within like days of contracting like gonorrhea, or maybe it's chlamydia, I just confused, which I just kind of correlate the two together. Um, but I think that within days, like when you pee, it burns. So if you're
Ooh.
in jail for like months, I can't imagine those symptoms like solving themselves. So like,
Fuck.
and I don't
Yeah.
know, do they have antibiotics back then? I don't know if they knew how to treat that. Like, does a prison treat that? So, like, not only are your rights stripped away and you're locked up, but like your dick is fucked. Like that sucks. And then
Totally.
syphilis, not only does it show some physical symptoms, but it also like deteriorates your brain.
Uh-huh.
And so, like,
That's
you literally go crazy.
and that's what
So,
happened
oh,
to Al Capone.
mhm.
He basically lost the ability to think. He was like a 12-year-old kid by the time he left prison, which is crazy. And I was telling you off air the story of a guy who wanted to kill Al Capone in
Yeah.
prison. And this was in Rikers Island. And famously, he had spent all these years waiting for this chance to kill him. And once he finally got a chance to, and he finds Al Capone in the prison, he sees that it's just a shell of a man staring back at him, and it's like talking to a child. And it's bad when a mobster who's been, especially an old timey mobster who's been holding on to revenge for all those years, just looks at you and just says, "Nope, I can't even do it. It's not worth it." And let him go, let him live, because the way he lived was, oof, it's
I
crazy.
guess letting him live in that capacity is probably more of a punishment than like it's like
And
killing him
killing
might be
him,
the easy way out, you know? I
absolutely.
Al Capone was a cocky motherfucker, and I think his brother went to jail for tax stuff like
Oh,
for a few years, and Al Capone's lawyers were like, okay, we got to switch up our strategy. So they actually approached the court with a guilty plea and a plea bargain. They're like, okay, I'll plead
oh,
guilty if we can do this and this. And the judge threw it out. They're like, absolutely not. We don't accept this. So then Al Capone and his team were like, okay, fine. We retract the guilty plea. We're not guilty. We're gonna fight this. We'll see who comes out on top. And then that was like um
oof.
not the greatest approach to take.
Woof. Woof. And then, of course, he got the syphilis.
The syphilis.
Life is never good after the syphilis.
The syphilis.
Oh, man. Anyway, up next, on my end, we going back to the housewives, this time of New Jersey, with Teresa and Joe Giudice. I always fuck up their last name.
Judice.
Judice. Ooh,
Judice. Yeah.
ooh, it sounds kind of lucky. I'm dating a
Feel
Judice.
I feel like in I feel like in Italy maybe it's Giudice or something, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like that would be more Italian.
Well, on TV
Giudice.
show they say Judice.
Yes, yes. And I actually been watching House of Villains 2, and Teresa was actually in that season, and
Yeah.
we just said goodbye to her this week. So it's funny that she's still kicking out
She's
there.
good television.
She is fun.
Did
She's
you
fun
see
to
the
watch.
scene when she made dinner and everyone was like, it's really salty. It's like, they
She
made me
spent
think everyone's
this
like,
time talking about it.
so salty.
Bitch had a cookbook, and the food was so shit. Oh my god, that was too funny. But yes, aside from House of Villains, you guys know her from the Bravo reality days of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And her husband were both sentenced to prison after being convicted of white collar crimes. First, in 2014, Joe was found guilty of mail fraud, wire fraud, and bankruptcy fraud and was sentenced to 41 months in prison. This occurred after he changed his plea from not guilty to guilty, which means he was facing much bigger charges. He was released from prison in 2019 and was then promptly deported to Italy. Ciao! And then his wife, Teresa
Oh, can I
Giudice.
comment on that for a second?
You sure
So
can.
so, um,
1 second. Okay, you're done. You said 1 second. That's it. Go
so,
on.
Joe Giudice, he moved to America from Italy when he was, like, 1. So he never went through the citizenship process.
Right.
So because he was never a citizen, I think that was one of the contributing factors as to why he was deported. Um,
Totally.
and why she wasn't. So she grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. And something about Joe, I could be wrong, but I mean, he's kind of a shit person and sneaky. And I think that he had a DUI and used his brother's identification to get like a new ID or something. Like he's always been sneaky and cutting corners. So like when this news broke, um, like I wasn't surprised by it. He's a shit
Yeah.
person.
Totally. That's
Anyway,
so
I'm sorry
bad,
to
dude.
interrupt. Go ahead.
No, yes, that's terrible. Uh, and yes, he was deported to Italy. His wife, Teresa, was sentenced to 15 months in prison and was released after serving 11 months. And People magazine reported that the couple were indicted in 2013 after being accused of hiding their fortune in a bankruptcy filing, which is fucking dumb, especially when you star on a goddamn TV reality show about how rich you are. Just saying. And the 39 count indictment asserted that the couple committed mail fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud, and bankruptcy fraud while also making false statements on loan applications. They reportedly exaggerated their incomes and hid increased assets. After serving 11 months of her sentence, Teresa was released from prison December 2015, and Joe began serving his prison sentence in March 2016. The couple was ordered to pay $414,588 in restitution, and note that they were allowed to be sentenced, serve their sentence separately, so they could have because they have the kids, so they didn't want
Yeah,
to
she went
leave the kids
first.
parentless,
And
and then
then
he
on the
went.
show, it shows when she comes back from jail for the first time and like she walks into the house and sees her kids for the first time in almost a year. It's emotional and sad because I don't think that I mean you watched Teresa on that
Totally.
show. She's not a shit person. Like
No,
she
yeah, she's
means
nice.
well, like she's nice, like she loves her family. She's with she just partnered up with the wrong guy and he
Yeah,
really
but at the same
kind of ruined
time,
her.
clearly she was involved enough where she served jail time. Because, for example, let's say that me and Julie are married and I filed the taxes and I do all that shit on HR block myself and I lie about it, you can very clearly see that she had nothing to do with it, that I lied. And I go to jail and she's fine, you know? Obviously, our finances are not fucked, but she wouldn't face any jail time. In this particular case, clearly she had a hand in it. So it goes to show she's definitely a nice person, but she's not a stupid person. You know what I mean?
She
So
might be.
yeah, but I don't
She
know.
might be kinda dumb.
I can't excuse her.
Her
Uh,
vocabulary is really unfortunate. She might be kinda
her
dumb.
vocabulary is yes, and her cooking skills are also leave much to be
Yikes.
desired for. But I don't know. I feel like she definitely knew enough to know that something sketchy was going on, especially because when you go through bankruptcy hearings and shit like that, like those are not easy hearings. You know, it's not something that he just does on his own. Like she very much has to be prepared to know what to say. And so she's gonna know the reality of what she's saying versus what's in her actual life. So I don't know. I feel like he definitely came up with the scheme, but she was not a victim in this one. I gotta say, that's just me. But anyways, uh, Joe Judice later on was also accused of failing to file tax returns between 2004 and 2008. So that's just a big no-no. Like you're all together not gonna fucking submit tax returns again while you're on reality TV. Like the whole world is fucking watching you, dude. Like, think they're not gonna ask questions? So that's a big no-no. And learn this again. If you take anything from the show, Uncle Sam always wants his piece of the pie in America. So don't forget. And then don't forget about Al Capone and the syphilis. They'll get you.
Mm-hmm.
They will get you. So pay taxes, people.
That's the
Anyways,
truth.
what you got next?
Well, next up, I think it's my last one.
Yeah,
But
buddy.
I think that like when I hear of like jail time for like tax related things, I immediately think of Martha Stewart. Who,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I really, really like Martha Stewart. I
Me
love
too.
her rapport with Snoop Dogg. I think that's like the dynamic duo like made in heaven.
She's so good.
I think they're both great.
Seriously.
I also think she's beautiful and she's in her 80s and she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated recently, wasn't she? Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean she looks great. I mean great for an 80-year-old. I wouldn't hit it with your dick, but I'm just saying like she looks good. She looks like she's in her 60s and she's 80. Anyway, um, so she's probably most remembered for her insider trading scandal. Uh,
Totally.
but she also had some back tax woes for income earned in 1991, 1992 to the tune
Mm.
of $220,000.
Wow.
She was thinking that she didn't owe the taxes because she spent more than half the year outside the state of New York, living in Connecticut, but the argument didn't
Huh.
really hold up in court. So it was
Huh.
just, I think it's just confusion in that
Yeah,
sense.
that one you can give her the benefit of the doubt. But the insider trading stuff. Uh-uh.
So, according to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, Stewart avoided a loss of like $45,000 by selling almost 4,000 shares of her I'm Clone system stock
Mm-hmm.
on in December of 2001. And she did this because she received material non-public information from this guy named Peter, who was her broker at Merrill Lynch.
Yep.
The following day, the stocks fell in value by like 16%. So he had like inside information. He was like, "Hey, you gotta sell this shit because you're gonna lose money otherwise." And so she
Mm-hmm.
sold it and she profited off of it. But to be fair, I kind of sympathize with her because if I had a broker at Merrill Lynch who called me and said you should do this, I would say okay. I wouldn't think much of it if I trusted this person.
But
So
here's the thing. She knew exactly what she was doing because I'm actually was watching the Martha Stewart documentary and they touch a lot about this that just came out on Netflix. And so she gets this call from this guy
yeah,
and she hangs up the phone. Her friend is actually sitting there and was used to testify in court. And she hangs up the phone and looks at her friend and goes, "Isn't it awesome to have people that give you this type of information?" And then she made the call to sell the stock. So she knew that she was getting a hot tip that she would not have if it wasn't through her connections. And she vocalized it to her friend who was like, "Fuck!" Like now, like when her friend got subpoenaed, her friend didn't rat out Martha Stewart, but when you get subpoenaed and you break a subpoena, you can go to jail for that too. So her friend was just an unfortunate situation, had to report it, basically narc her out in court. But yeah, as soon as the friend said that, she said that statement, I was like, "Oh, Martha, you knew, you bitch!" Like, yeah.
yes, but I think of course you knew in some capacity, of course. But I do think there are some people who might get these tips and think that they're just well-educated guesses and not necessarily like illegal tips. So like I wouldn't know how to differentiate between the two. If someone encouraged me, you should do this and this, I'd be like, okay, if you think so. But I wouldn't know that that was an illegal tip. I don't know where
Yeah,
the
but
source
in
is
this
coming
case,
from.
the way that she describes it was she minimizes the call very much so. But she makes it seem that it was just her friend who was like, "Oh, by the way, you should get rid of this stock real quick. I just have a hunch." As opposed to what actually happened, which was the person told her, "Hey, there's about to be like a big thing tomorrow. You have to get rid of this stock. Trust me." Like, and so that's different. At that point, because the person fucking worked at that company and had insider knowledge. So so you have to dump the stock before the announcement is made. That's insider trading. And Martha Stewart, who built a media empire herself and who fucking like became the first female billionaire in America or something.
Oh, really?
She knew what the fuck she was doing enough to know that this is insider trading. Again, thus her comment to your friend, isn't it nice to have people who tell you this types of information? Like she knew that this was insider trading. So I love Martha, don't get me wrong. But in the documentary, you see her minimizing her involvement in it, and which is the first time that I was kind of like, well, this is kind of sketchy. When you start seeing all the pieces put in front of you, it's like she fucking knew, dude. She 1,000% knew. And
Well,
again, I love Martha, and it gave her so much street cred, which now she's working with Snoop Dogg and making
oh yeah.
millions off it. So she really landed on her feet, better off, anyways.
She capitalized on this situation for sure, but the stocks dropped 16%, and like when I look at that number, to me I'm like, is it that big of a deal? It's just 16%. Like I'm so ignorant about stocks and things that it doesn't really strike a chord. That's why the article you read
Well,
earlier about
that's
the
the
HAWK
thing.
TUAH
It dropped
girl, to me I'm like,
16%. But she had 4,000 shares. So
yeah,
imagine, it's literally just what, a $10 drop, but again, times 4,000. So, and this is the case where it was hundreds of dollars drops in these stocks. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's
so
tough. I can see the HAWK TUAH girl being ignorant. I can't see Martha Stewart at this point
no,
being
but
ignorant.
but my point is that these stocks dropped 16%, and that landed Martha Stewart in jail. So this
Oh
HAWK
yeah,
TUAH girl dropped 95%, and they're acting like, oh, well, no, but that's that. Of course, it's
totally,
going to raise eyebrows. Of course, it's a red flag.
totally.
Like it's
The
unavoidable. Like
thing where
you're
it
gonna have
gets
to explain
tough.
yourself.
Totally. And the thing where it's going to get tough though is that, the stock market is very regulated, but crypto itself isn't yet. So that's also going to raise questions on, regulations and all this shit. But yeah, that's definitely going to lead to a much bigger uh issue within the crypto world. But that's
Yeah,
very true. I don't know, man. And Martha Stewart had way more money, intelligence, and I guarantee you a way better lawyer than the HAWK TUAH girl will have, judging by the team that she's surrounding herself with. So you're right.
yeah.
We might have to see the HAWK TUAH girl talk to a judge, as they're
She's
saying
gonna
on
be
the
a HAWK
webs.
TUAH behind bars. She's gonna
That's
be
right.
sucking on them clits. So anyway, more about Martha. So after a very highly publicized 6-week jury trial, Martha was found guilty in March of 2004 of felony charges of conspiracy to obstruct, of obstruction of an agency proceeding, and of making false statements to federal investigators, and was sentenced in July 2004 to serve a
Wow.
5-month term in a federal correctional facility and a 2-year period of supervised release, which included 5 months of probably an ankle bracelet, electronic monitoring. I think that's an ankle bracelet.
Yep, yep, yep.
So Martha voluntarily stepped down as CEO and chairwoman of her company, MSLO, which stands for Martha Stewart Living Omni Media. But she
Uh-huh.
stayed on as chief creative officer. So even though like I mean, jail time sucks, but like 3 months,
Right.
like that's nothing. Considering what
Totally.
other people get, she
And
was
yeah,
sentenced to
she stayed at a very nice prison too. That if you look at it, it legitimately looks like a summer camp. Like her
yeah.
prison stay was not as bad as everybody else's.
So she was sentenced to, I'm sorry, 5 months. But when you compare it to like these were like felony charges. I think didn't what's his face? Blade. What was his name again?
Wesley
Um,
Snipes.
Wesley Snipes. He was convicted of misdemeanor charges. They weren't
Right.
felony; they were misdemeanor
Right.
charges. But because he willfully like was shady and whatnot, they threw the book at him and sentenced him to 3 years imprisonment. She was sentenced to 5 months. So
Totally.
anyway, more on that is, um, she agreed to a 5-year ban from serving as director, CEO, CFO, or any other officer role responsible for preparing, auditing, or disclosing financial results of any public company. So, like, even her
Wow.
own company, she had to, as part of the, I guess the bargain or the sentencing. Maybe it was a plea
Hmm.
bargain that she did, but they were like, "I understand it's your company, but you can't be in a leadership role of your for 5 years." And
What's
so
wrong?
that sucks. And then, in June 2008, the United Kingdom Border Agency refused to grant her a visa to enter the United Kingdom because of her criminal conviction for obstructing justice. So she was planning to speak at the Royal Academy of Fashion and Leisure Industry Matters, um,
Which is
I'm
so
sorry, Royal
petty.
Academy on Fashion Leadership, Leisure Industry Matters, but she couldn't. So like it's really affected a lot of her. So she kind of had to she had no other option but to rebrand herself to
Totally.
monetize it. You know,
Totally. And I'm not gonna lie, it goes to show here's the thing with the people that succeed in life and have these long careers in Hollywood and the biz, they always reinvent themselves. And in any entertainment business, whether it's singers, whatever, like you look at Cher, how much she reinvented herself every year. Madonna's, the Michael Jacksons, all these people always endure by reinventing themselves. And Martha was one of them. And she, I have to say, anybody else might have gotten fucking canceled and disappeared off the face of the earth. But the way that she came back, uh, better than ever, and with almost laughing at herself a little bit about this and teaming up with Snoop Dogg has made her even more lovable, in my opinion. Because
oh my
back then
gosh,
I used to be like,
doing the roasts,
yep,
like
yep,
doing the
she's doing the
roast is
roast.
such a scary thing to do, and you really make yourself vulnerable. But the payout is amazing. You
And
know,
she's great at them too. She's really a funny lady. I love her so much more now than I did before she went to jail. I used to
me
kind of think she
too.
was like some stuck up white bitch who, did housing shit. Now I fucking love Martha, you know. So yeah, kudos to her. She's another one that really turned her life into so much more awesome things after the jail time. Um, but anyways, down to the final one, down to the
This is a good
last one.
one.
And you just know that this guy had to be here because not only is he a celeb, but he is the only active president on the list, ladies and gentlemen. It is the one and only Donald Trump because our boy Donnie he's been hit with quite a few crimes over the years, but this whole list is the financial
Dun,
crimes
dun,
list.
dun,
So
dun,
we'll talk
dun,
about
dun.
financial crime. First things first, he was hit with a fraud case in the fall of 2022 when New York Attorney General Letitia James filed a civil suit against Trump, his adult sons, and his former aide, Alan Weisselberg, alleging a years-long scheme in which Trump fraudulently reported the value of properties in order to either lower his tax bill or improve the terms of his loans, all with an eye towards inflating his net worth. And Stella heard Trump and wants to come on the couch. Hey, come on up, baby. And Justice Arthur Engoron ruled on February 16th that Trump must pay $355 million plus interest, which I believe the interest was like 80 more million, the calculated size
Yikes.
of his ill-gotten gains from fraud. And that's not it, though, because in March 2023, he was hit with a different case of the hush money trial as it's wide known, when Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg became the first prosecutor to bring felony charges against Trump, alleging that the former president had falsified business records as part of a scheme to pay hush money to women who said they'd have sexual relationships with Trump. The trial began on April 15th and ended with a May 30th conviction where he was convicted of, I believe, 34 different charges. On September
Yikes.
6th, it was announced that his sentencing would be postponed to avoid interfering with the election. And it is unclear what's going to happen to the charges now that he has won the election, but he has been convicted, so he's guilty of this. Now, these these charges do carry jail time, so it's curious to see if it's going to be put on hold until he's no longer president in 4 years, or if the sentencing itself will be dismissed, or if he can pardon himself because he hasn't been sentenced. Who knows what can happen at this point with that? But that was a bad one, especially because at this point, you're cheating on your wife with a porn star, and his wife was pregnant, and then he's also having his attorney pay this lady off. You're like hiding it from your finances, but then you also go out of your way to hide these things because you're running for president. So I don't know. There's so much lying in it that's what pisses me off about it. Because I don't care if he's paying off, some hooker or whatever, or if, in this case, a porn star. Dude, you're Donald Trump. Just be honest about it at this point.
You
Everybody
know
knows
what?
you're fucking around. You know?
I I don't think well, I feel like Donald Trump and Giuliani, they just don't look good, and they're not, like, the epitome of a healthy lifestyle, and I think that they're gonna succumb to their unhealthy lifestyle in the next few years. So I think that if Trump survives these 4 years of office, um, I can't imagine him being, like, the epitome of health, um, to, survive much longer. Like, I don't
That's
think
true.
I don't
I don't imagine him sentenced. You're right. You're right.
and I sometimes I think that courts give leeway to people who are, like, decrepit, and they're, like, they don't really have much quality of life,
Totally,
like,
totally.
it's gonna
And plus
cost us
former
more,
presidents
and,
too.
it'll cost the prison system more to maintain his health in the prison than to let him just, like, live out his final days, you know? Um,
Nah, you're right.
I also think that, so, yeah, I think that Donald Trump is unhealthy, and he's old. I know you know, Joe Biden is a little bit older than Donald Trump, but
Mhm.
Donald Trump is also old, and,
Yeah,
I think that he lived a party lifestyle, and that's gonna catch up with him. He doesn't eat healthy. He
totally.
moves slow. People don't talk about it, but he looks exhausted. So,
Yeah, he
I
does.
I I worry about his health. I also think that, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but speaking of, like, morbid things, I have a prediction, and that is, um, Sean P. Diddy Combs is gonna find a similar fate to, Epstein. I have a feeling.
Mm,
I'm just waiting every day when I see a headline about P. Diddy, I'm like, "Is this the end?" It's just my prediction.
that's true. But the thing is, at this point, the feds have the Diddy tapes. So, like, if he dies, the people are gonna want to see him. With Epstein, there was a lot of mystery still. So I don't know. I do think also though that Diddy. I don't see him dying as an old man in prison. Let's just say that. That's ugh. Too many enemies for sure
Yeah.
at this
Mhm.
point, and too many people who definitely benefit from getting rid of him. But one that I don't think will end too well is Rudy because he's not doing well right now. The bankruptcy
No.
cases, he's had to give up so many of his assets, and he hasn't finished doing so yet. So like the courts are coming after him for it, and he's like complaining that he has no money to pay for his basic bills anymore. Rudy might be back in Times Square with like a Mario outfit or something, and
He might be.
trying to take a picture. He's gonna be
Mhm.
Spider-Man soon. If the shit keeps
Yep.
going, because good
Mhm.
lord, man. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on this over the years. Obviously, we have Trump will be inaugurated in January, so we have no idea if or when these cases will be revisited. But note, there's plenty of other crimes on that side of the fence. This is just the financial crime. So this is why, like the Trump University thing or the Cancer Foundation, those didn't quite make the list. But there's plenty more where that came from that maybe
Yeah.
we'll cover in some other topics. But that was our list, ladies and gentlemen, of celebrity financial crime, brought to you by the Fratchat Podcast. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if there's any other celeb crimes that we should know about. Write us an email, fratchatpodcast@gmail.com, or give us a follow on all social channels at Fratchat Podcast. That's on Instagram. That's on Facebook. That's on Threads. That's on YouTube. You can give me a follow. CarlosGarciaComedy.com is my website. You can give me a follow on social at Carlos Does the World, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Threads, on YouTube. Carlos Does World on Twitter/X. You can give my buddy Simo here a follow as well at chris.moore.comedy on Instagram, on Facebook. And wait, chris.moore.comedy. Sorry there, the music is shifting. On TikTok and on Instagram. And you can follow him at Seymour Comedy on Twitter/X. Oh, yeah. I just definitely almost had a stroke. But, Mr. Mo, it's time to go before the popo comes after us. So won't you please get us out of here?
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right, you guys, make sure you pay your taxes so you don't get hit with the syphilis. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the greatest podcast in the history of podcasts and time. It's the Fratchat Podcast. See ya!
Bye.